Hello, everybody from Planet Earth. My name is Tim Michael, and I'm from TimMichaelArts.com, and welcome to our Draw Too Much sketch lessons, where today we're going to be playing with fire, quite literally. And then once we're done playing with fire, then I'm going to teach you guys how to draw sparks and lightning. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm going to teach you to draw fire, well, not fire as in lots of big fire, but starting off mainly with candle flame. The reason why I want to show you that is because it really helps understand what we're going to lead into. Let me go ahead and start by opening up a document. Okay, so new document here is going to be 4,000 by 4,000 pixels because I like working in high definition. Here we go. And then to start this tutorial out, I'm going to go ahead and create a black background that we will paint over top. The reason why is because a candle or lightning or sparks show best on black backgrounds. So I figure why not, let's go for it. So let's go ahead and draw ourselves a candle real quick. Well, the flame and maybe the top of the candle. Just give ourselves an idea here of what we're working with. And then we're going to try and turn this into as real a flame as possible and as quick as possible because there's lots of stuff to cover in this tutorial today. Just trying to flesh this out, get it the shape I want it to be. Alright, that'll work for me. Will that work for you guys? Yeah, sure, I can hear you. Yeah, that's right. Talk to your computers. Just kidding. I'm not mean. Okay, let me go ahead and zoom in here. And since we're not really paying attention to the candle itself, let's look at the flame. For starters, the thing that you need to remember is when you step outside at like noon and you look straight up into the sun, first off, you're blinded. But why are you blinded? You're blinded mainly because as you're looking at the sun, it is so vibrant and bright that there is no color to it. It is a pure, literally a pure white, and it is very blinding. The hottest part, and this is what we're going to be studying today during this course, the hardest part of anything that we're working on today is white or blue, okay? And in the case of this flame that we're going to be working on, blue is the hottest part. And then as we get into it a little bit deeper, the white as well is also another extremely hot part. So those are the two areas that we need to keep in mind as we work on this candle. So let's go ahead and start with some blue. Now, the thing that you need to keep in mind is the hottest part is actually basically on the outsides of your flame. So the most vibrant areas of your flame that will be showing the color or the white or whatever are going to be the outsides. So let me go ahead and switch over to a airbrush. And I'm just going to start getting the outsides of this flame drawn in here. I'm going to color this in pure blue, but this is not how a real flame is, and I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some black, and I'm going to remove a little bit of this blue from the inside here. I'm not really sure why this is, but where this wick would be inside this candle causes the blue, I guess the heat is so pure that it becomes literally clear. But on the outsides of this, you have this nice vibrant area on both sides. Now we're going to make our way up the candle a little bit, And as we get into this, there's going to be an area of cooling. And this area of cooling is going to have the orange. So we're going to apply some of this area of cooling here. This is where, if I'm correct, the carbon hasn't quite hit the carbon in the air hasn't quite hit the candle, the flame yet. But as we go a little bit higher, this flame on this flame, we're going to have a yellow, and that means that it's starting to heat up again. And then as we get into the top of this, right up here, this white, this pure area here, is this pure heat, or this pure vibrancy of light. And then once again, as we get closer to the tip, well, now it's going to start cooling down again because it's away from the emitting source. And you'll hear me say emitting source a lot during this tutorial. And as we get further away from the emitting source, it will literally go up to a certain point and opaque out. Opaque means it will become see-through and it will just disappear, literally. Let me go ahead and clean up my edges here a little bit. A flame usually is a very sharp object, so you'll see I'm going to try and keep this nice and sharp. And then what will happen in the final, well, I'll show you in a second here, is the outsides of the flame will have a little bit of just a glow separated from it. Just very minimal glow, but not so much that it makes it remove its sharp edge. It'll still be a very hard edge, but it will kind of just flow off the sides of this flame. Just kind of emit just a little bit of light. And of course, as we get further away from the source, you know, you're going to have your yellow, and you're going to have your orange as it gets further away. That's the gist of a flame on a candle. And as we get into further study into this, you're going to see that we're going to hit some other points, like how this is going to work for the sparks, and how it's going to work also for the lightning. And the options are pretty cool and quite limitless when it comes to what you can do. I'm going to show you how to draw one spark, literally just one spark, and then it's your job to go ahead and take that spark and run with it as far as you can. Obviously, this doesn't look very realistic, but I wanted to really point out specifically the heat points of this flame, because it's really going to help you understand when we move into the next key parts of this tutorial. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into part 2 here, where we're going to now, instead of doing this candle wick, we'll go ahead and turn this off, make a new layer, and keep that there just in case I need that for a demo. We're going to go ahead and start with a single a single spark. Let me explain to you what a spark is. A spark is one single emission. Let me choose the right, yeah, here we go. It's going to be one single emission that's going to have a series of small emissions off of it. However many you want. Usually it's like 2, 3, 4, something simple. And the best idea would be to start thick, and then as you get out towards the tip, you want to make it nice and sharp. Now, this single emission, of course, since it is the center of it, is pure white. The stronger the emission, the more these are going to shoot out. And the more these shoot out, the more powerful they become, until suddenly you find yourself with mini emissions. And these mini emissions will then create little sparks of their own that'll fly out. Okay? That is what a spark is. So when you have a lighter creating sparks, and you see this flip of a bunch of sparks, you have your single emission, and that single emission is going to create other emissions that will then let off your sparks. Now, let's take a look at the color values of these emissions now, like we did before with the candle. Same idea applies, except there really isn't a blue emission. The purest part of this spark is white. Okay? The second purest part is going to be the yellow. And the third purest is, of course, the orange. Now, you're going to start to see the yellow kick in somewhere usually halfway down the emission. Sometimes right behind, but usually about halfway down. So I'll put this one right behind, but you might find it starting about here. And depending on how long the emission tail is, you'll have the yellow, and then you'll have it kick into the orange. And then it will either stay that way, it will actually shoot outwards and not be connected to the main emission, or it will still be connected and it'll have the pure white going to it. But if it's not connected to the emission, then you're going to make it so it's not connected. There might be a little string of orange that will still trail into the emission, but it wouldn't be enough really to connect to that. So the further that this goes away, the further that this goes out this way, the longer this tail will become until it just turns into nothing. So think about it like any kind of jet that you've seen or anything like that. There's a certain point where it just tapers off and disappears. So that's what you have here. You still might have this white trailing further back, depending on how hot that individual emission is. My best advice: go online, look up sparks, check it out, and see if you can do that for yourself. Try and create some sparks for yourself by looking at those pictures and stuff. Now, the hotter the emission, the more the spark is going to fly out, and the more spark is going to fly out, the more a spark will jump off that original spark. It all depends on how powerful that original emission is. Okay? So that is the best advice I can give you basically on sparks. You're just going to build off in the same idea as a flame. It's just going to taper off into that. Now usually when you have the little sparks that jump off, they probably won't be strong enough to put off another emission off of them. So what you would probably do is you'd probably grab your yellow and you would just, right at the tip, just go from yellow to orange immediately, which is going to make it look like it cooled down within half a millisecond. And that's really going to add a lot of definition to your final piece as you're working on it, because you have so much depth in the final piece. So let me go ahead and apply some of this in here, and we're going to do the same over here. I will be covering all of these tutorials as well in my classes that I'm going to be teaching here in Orlando. So if you're a person in Orlando and you want hands-on and you want communication with a teacher, if you want to be forced to draw art, come on over to Sam Flax Art Store. That's where I'm going to be teaching at. And we're going to be starting digital art lessons. You bring your own laptop, you bring your own tablet, and I will teach you how to do stuff like this. I'll teach you how to draw characters. I'll teach you how to do tons of stuff. We're covering every form of digital art imaginable in my classes at the art store. Classes are going to be held in their second floor, and it's going to be pretty cool. They have a loft there, and it can hold about 12 to 15 people a session, and we're almost full with our first session. So make sure, if you're not registered yet and you live in the Orlando area and you would be interested, stop by Sam Flax and register for your chance to be in there. And if not, then we'll keep an eye out for how we can put you in another class in the future. This is fun. I love this. Let's look at some lightning now, though. Lightning is a lot of fun. Lightning has a very different approach because there's not really much of a cooldown point for lightning. You're always going to start off with a pure white, and I want to make sure that I get this nice and long. And you're going to have jagged edges, and lightning just kind of stops at a certain point. So I'm going to start from one side here, and I'm just going to work my way down and bring it down to a single point. Just keep it nice and jagged, and then as you come to your points, make sure that they kind of taper off to a sharp edge. Okay? Now, this is the beginning of lightning. It already looks like lightning, and all I did was just make some jagged edges. Your thicknesses are going to be important. Your area closest to your emission on your lightning bolt, that's going to be kind of key, depending on what you're doing it from. If you're doing it from a cloud or whatever, higher up and closer it is to the cloud. You're not going to go too much wider on the bolt itself, but just a little bit, just a touch. Now, here's where it gets fun for me, though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some blue, and usually in pictures, if you look, it's a blue-purple. So I'll do a bluish-purple, why not? I'm going to grab my soft round pressure with opacity. I'm going to make my brush nice and big, and I'm simply going to go over this, actually under it. I'll put a layer behind it, and I'm just going to apply a very light purple effect. I might take this just a bit smaller so I can kind of have it a bit more vibrant. Now, the reason why I didn't go over the original lines, the reason why I did it on a layer below, is I don't want it to pull away from the vibrancy of that pure white. Remember, that pure white is really going to show that intense amount of heat. Okay? And that heat carries all the way through the bolt. It's an electric charge. There's not really a point that it dies out, and if it does die out, it doesn't die out like a flame does or like a spark does. It just stops at a sharp point, okay? Now you can go as thick or as thin on this as you want, depending on how vibrant you want this thing to be. I mean, you could even pull in some blues here and go right up close and pull in some of the blue into this lightning bolt here like this. And then I'm going to show you one more trick that you can do with this. It looks pretty cool as it comes down. And lightning bolts don't usually have this. Well, they might, depending on the picture that you're seeing. Lightning bolts might not have the effect that I'm going to put on here for you. But I feel it adds a little bit extra to the lightning, and every artist, of course, is allowed their own preference. You can see that that blue kind of makes that lightning bolt pop a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some white, and I'm going to make my brush nice and big. And in the areas where there's a connecting bolt, I'm just going to apply a shock of white. Just kind of like this. Like there is an explosion at each point of contact with one of these bolts. And I might carry that down and up the actual stems. And then if you want to, at the tip of your final one, you could show its contact point if you wanted to. I don't see a real need for that, but take a look at how this looks. Now, if you wanted to blend in the two together, you go like that, and you can see that that really pulls away from that original, and I like that to stand out very nice and bold. So I keep that on a layer above the lightning itself. Okay? And I would say also mess around with your dissolves and things like that, and see if there's other settings that you might like more. Now, I am working on a black background, so a lot of these effects aren't really actually going to show. Something like this, the hard light, you know, your linear light, which looks kind of cool. Looks like it's really pulling out the purples in the vibrant areas. Let's see that again. That's screen, but I like that linear light. Where's that linear light? Here it is. See how it's pulling out the purple in these little areas here? I think that looks kind of cool. And pin light, linear light, vivid light, hard light. Anyway, I'm just scrolling through these to see what it looks like. Yeah, dissolve, all those. Keep it on normal. There we go. And if you don't want it to be so bold, I mean, of course, you can simply dull down on your vibrant tones. Just maybe drop your opacities a little bit. Gives it a little bit more of a dark feel, but still has that little glow on it and stuff. Whatever your options are there, you know, that works out pretty well. Well, I think that's about going to cover our tutorials on sparks, on lightning, and on candle flames. So I hope that helps you guys, gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what you need to be doing, with even down to a sunset. Let me, well, not sunset, but like a sun on a nice day. Maybe there's like some basic clouds or something like that. Let's go ahead and see if I can show you that real quick. Let me go ahead and make my brush bigger. Paint this all in here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and apply some simple clouds in here. I love using my airbrush for all this stuff. And remember that your pure white is what you're going to be looking to use for your sun. So I'm going to apply this pure white. You know, like all the little kids do. They'll put it right in the corner here like this. And that's going to be your vibrant light. And then your clouds are going to cast a little bit of a shadow. So I'll pull in just a hair of gray. And I kind of like using a little blue in my grays. I feel it kind of adds some dimension to it. And I'm just going to apply some of that along in here. And then as you begin to get further out, as I look at it, it already looks kind of vibrant to me and bright. So I'm feeling good about this already. And then I'm just going to try and apply a little bit of the yellow on the outside of that. Not much, though. I mean, you really don't need much. Just enough to make it look almost 3D in a way. But you want it to literally blind you on the paper itself. You know, on the document itself. Nope, that's a bit too much. If you look at the sun long enough, you feel like there's an odd edge of pure vibrancy. It's kind of hard to explain. But you almost feel like right along here, or whatever, as you look at it, there's like this pure white right there, or somewhere there. And it's really blinding, and it gets you every time. But if you want to capture that, you want to do it with a nice hard light, and then you go to the outsides. And then, of course, you want to make sure not so much pure white or whatever, but you want to go along the top of your clouds and stuff, and you want to make sure you hit where all the light's going to be affecting those clouds as well, wherever that's going to be happening. And then your grays, or your gray blues like I like to do, they'll go along the bottom of your cloud and give you that 3D effect on your clouds. Or if you have a cloud going behind your sun, obviously you're just going to take this vibrant tone and you're going to apply it to the back like that, and then your cloud might stick out there, and it's so bright it's going to be blinding the cloud as well, because your cloud is going to be shooting off some white there. And actually think about it, your cloud is never going to be actually behind your sun. Never. Because your sun is further away than your cloud. So that was a stupid thought, but hey, we talk about that there and get that all fixed, you know? Hey. But you're probably not going to get much shadow unless you have a really overcast day, like maybe you got a storm coming in or something. You're not really going to have much of a shadow, and if you do, it's going to be very bold, because you're going to have, if you're going to have a sun coming in with that much cloud, then you're going to be having a storm, you know? And it's going to have a storm effect, and what you're going to do there is you're going to have to darken up your clouds a lot. And I'm going to put a very light, darker tone along the front of the clouds. And I'll take some of this white and I'll go on the top. And then this one here, this cloud here, I mean, these clouds are both going to have a very vibrant top side. But these would be storm clouds or getting close to storm clouds and stuff like that. Okay? So I think that's about going to cover this tutorial. This tutorial is a very short one, so 26 minutes roughly. And of course we're going to speed it up a little bit and have a video on YouTube, of course, because this has been a special request by some people on YouTube, as well as some people from my YouTube demo. So thank you very much for joining me. My name is Tim Michael. Thank you for joining me on Tim Michael Arts and TimMichaelArts.com. And make sure to come and check out my website, read my webcomics, and also make sure to stop by Sam Flax Art Store on Interstate 50 in downtown Orlando. They have some incredible art supplies there, and I have a lot planned that I'm going to be doing with them. So thank you very much, guys. God bless you, and I'll see you next time here on Draw Too Much Sketch Series, the Draw Too Much Sketch Series, and TimMichaelArts.com. God bless. Love y'all. See you later.